Hello there.
Obi Wan Kenobi is the newest Star Wars series on Disney Plus and stars Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan and Hayden Christensen as Anakin to get to face off for the first time since episode 3. So what we're going to do is break down each individual episode to see what they did wrong and what they did right. The series begins with yet again another depiction of Order 66, and at this point the Star Wars franchise is becoming very repetitive. Almost every new Star Wars property has some depiction of this event. In this scene we get to see a Jedi Master mowed down in front of a group of younglings, and I'm guessing one of the younglings is Reva, who we get to see later. We then cut to Tatooine 10 years later, where we're introduced to our main group of villains, the Inquisitors. You may know the Grand Inquisitor from Rebels, but he looks nothing like his Rebels counterpart. Looking like an egghead, missing the oval-shaped head his species is supposed to have. We are also given the fifth brother, who I actually kinda like, who always puts on a fake Chinese accent
hiding on this planet
and tries to make his voice deep and raspy.
Know why we are here. There's a Jedi.
And finally, there's the most hated character, Reva the third sister. We then get to see what the Grand Inquisitor is all about, as he meticulously questions a bar owner, piecing together the fact that he has a stowaway Jedi somewhere.
You're sheltering enemies of the state, are you not?
Yes.
You're sheltering them underneath your floorboards, aren't you? Point out to me the areas where they're hiding.
Before the Grand Inquisitor is strategically able to single out the Jedi, Reva impulsively throws a knife at the bar owner.
You're low impulse control!
The Jedi is forced to out himself in order to help the bar owner and tries to escape. Reva tries to kill him, yet again going against the wishes of the Grand Inquisitor.
You're low impulse control!
After starting the series out with a flashback to Reva and then showing Reva on current day, we finally get to see the so-called main character of this entire show. Obi-Wan. We get to see Obi-Wan's life on Tatooine as he works in a meatpacking plant and lives in a cave, all while watching over Luke. While returning home, Obi-Wan runs into the escaped Jedi from earlier, who begs Obi-Wan for his help. Here we get to see how Obi-Wan has become completely cynical and the complete opposite of what he used to be, sounding more like Luke from The Last Jedi than Obi-Wan from Episode 4.
The time of the Jedi is over.
Time for the Jedi to end.
He says all this just for the next scene when he's confronted by Owen for leaving the toy, to insist that Luke is the future of the Jedi Order.
We talked about this. When the time comes, he must be trained.
While this is going on, Reva and the fifth brother are rounding up the townsfolk, and here the character of Reva is put on full display, being way too over-aggressive, cutting off this lady's hand for absolutely no reason, non-threatening.
I like that one. It's important. You think you could protect them from me?
And screaming for absolutely no reason.
Tell me where the Jedi is!
Loud noises!
After the two Inquisitors fail to get any information, the two leave and begin to fight. And all this fighting back and forth make the Inquisitors look less intimidating and less competent. Here we're introduced to a character I had no idea would be in the show, and don't know if her presence in the show really breaks the lore at all. Young Leia. Reva then hires Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers to hunt down and kidnap Leia, giving way to the worst chase scenes I've seen in any movie or TV show, period.
Huh?
After this ridiculous chase scene, they're finally able to capture her. After finding out Leia is missing, Senator Organa sends a hologram to Obi Wan Kenobi.
Help me, Obi Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
After refusing to respond, Senator Organa goes to Tatooine himself in order to ask Obi Wan for help.
Should not have come.
I'm asking you to do this for me.
I can't.
Well then fuck you!
While on his way to a spaceport to get off the island, Obi-Wan comes across the dead body of the Jedi he refused to help, and randomly decides to flash his lightsaber in public even though it should be hidden at all costs. Overall, the first episode is pretty decent, setting up some good storylines and character development moving forward. Hopefully the next couple episodes can keep up the momentum and give us a satisfying ending. Episode 2 begins with Obi-Wan now on a Neon City planet that gives way to some really cool world building, as we get to see a homeless 501st officer.
Spare change. Spare change, ma'am.
And we get to see the shady underground market that takes place on this planet.
You want to buy some death sticks?
You don't want to sell me death sticks.
I don't want to sell you death sticks.
You want to go home and rethink your life.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
Obi-Wan is then approached by a little boy on the street who promises to take him to another Jedi.
I can take you there.
Here we're introduced to surprisingly one of my favorite characters in the entire series, that one dude from the Eternals.
My friends from college are here.
Once again, he's playing the goofy comic relief, as his character is pretending to be a Jedi. After watching him steal from a poor mother and son, Obi-Wan asks him this question.
You'll help me?
Yeah.
Can I trust you?
Definitely.
There's obviously no reason why Obi-Wan should trust this guy, and he even says so the next time he sees him.
Out there, people who can help you.
You expect me to trust you? You're a criminal.
We then get a scene that looks like it was taken directly out of Breaking Bad, as Obi-Wan sneaks through a drug-making plant in order to find Leia.
You clearly don't know who you're talking to, so let me clue you in.
While searching the premises, Obi-Wan is spotted by 2 guards, giving way to a very janky and slow fight scene that shows us that Obi-Wan is still rusty at fighting. Obi-Wan's able to fight them off and makes his way to Leia's location, only to be tricked and pinned down.
It's a trap!
Here, Obi-Wan's able to escape by pulling a Walter White,
This is not meth.
allowing him to find and rescue the actual Princess Leia. We then cut to Reva and the Inquisitors as we get to see she's up to her usual shtick.
Move. Where is he?
Can you tone it down, please, a little bit?
We can see that the divide between Reva and the other Inquisitors continues to grow, as she didn't tell anyone she kidnapped a senator's daughter, and continues to go behind the Grand Inquisitor's back, putting out a bounty on Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan and Leia are trying to escape the planet together when Leia sees the bounty for Obi-Wan. And with no other context whatsoever, she somehow pieces together the fact that she was kidnapped because of him.
That's what you were hiding. You're the reason I'm here. They took me to get to you.
But how the fuck you know this?
Causing her to run away from Obi-Wan, giving us another ridiculous chase scene.
Leia! No!
Got a blast!
My name is Barry Allen, and I am the fastest man alive.
Getting so ridiculous that she continuously runs away from Obi-Wan, jumping from roof to roof as they're actively being shot at. While jumping from building to building, Leia misses and ends up falling, giving us a really cool scene of Obi-Wan having no choice but to use the Force. We then cut back to the fake Jedi, who finds out that Obi-Wan's a real Jedi and that there's a bounty out on his head. Instead of cashing in on the bounty, he decides to help, by giving Obi-Wan away off the planet and causing a distraction. After doing horrible parkour throughout the city, Reva runs into the fake Jedi.
You'll never take me alive!
Not convinced by his performance, she quickly pins him against the wall and extracts Obi-Wan's location from his mind. Here we get the start of the relationship between Obi-Wan and Leia, and honestly, it's not that cute. It mostly consists of Leia bitching and commanding things to Obi-Wan and him just doing it.
Somebody is offering us help. I think we should take it. Now come on.
And I looked at her, who the fuck you think you talking to?
She's made to be smarter and wiser than Obi-Wan, even though she's just a kid. Reva arrives before they can escape, giving us another laughable scene of her trying to be intimidating.
You're not going to die today.
Here she reveals to Obi-Wan that Anakin is still alive, and that she somehow knows that Anakin is Darth Vader.
Anakin Skywalker is alive.
But how the fuck you know this?
Before Reva can get her hands on Obi-Wan, she's interrupted by the Grand Inquisitor. Finally fed up with her going behind everybody's back and fighting with all the other Inquisitors, he tells her to step aside, leading to one of the most jarring decisions in this entire series, as Reva seemingly stabs and kills the Grand Inquisitor. We know for a fact that the Grand Inquisitor is still alive in Rebels, so that means he either has to come back somehow, or the showrunners of the show are completely unaware of the history of this character. While this is going down, Obi-Wan and Leia get away, causing Reva to chase and scream after them.
You can't escape him! The power of pain compels you!
We will find you!
Get out of my friend, Ghost!
The episode ends with Obi-Wan reacting to the news that Vader's still alive, as we cut to a clip of Vader with really intense music, setting us up for the next couple episodes.
Anakin.
This is where the fun begins.
Overall, I really enjoyed the second episode, only finding Leia a little bit annoying and rolling my eyes whenever Reva's on screen. Episode 3 begins with Obi-Wan meditating as we get flashes of Anakin being put together. As we then cut over to Mustafar as we get to see Anakin's castle.
Sauron will have dominion.
Here we see Vader in his throne room as he instructs Reva on what to do. We then watch Reva arrive at the Inquisitor Fortress as she attempts to relay Vader's message. That ends in a fight with the fifth brother over who the next Grand Inquisitor is.
That seat is mine, not yours. I'm the captain now.
But because Vader spoke to her directly, she's able to take charge for the meantime.
Send out the probes. Do it now.
Commanding they send out probe droids to look for Obi-Wan. While on the way to the new location, Obi-Wan fixes Leia's droid Lola, who I haven't mentioned yet so far in this video, but it's been in the first 2 episodes and is important later. And although not Tatooine, they end up landing on a very similar desert planet that has even less structure and life than Tatooine. The two sneak around the unpacking droid and both make their way to the location that Haja gave them.
I was created for this, I think.
While on the way there, Obi-Wan's visited by visions of young Anakin.
We're ghosts!
After arriving at their location and finding no one or no thing there, they decide to leave after 2 seconds, not even waiting for someone to show up. Here we're given multiple scenes of Obi-Wan being short-tempered and not very kind to young Leia.
Why would he lie?
People are not all good, Leia.
You don't know if maybe...
No one is coming here, Leia.
But it's okay, because in the next couple of scenes they make Obi-Wan look like a complete dumbass. Leia begins running after a truck driving by, and after clearly stating it's not safe, Obi-Wan mindlessly follows after her.
But it's not safe.
He seems friendly.
Leia.
The truck is driven by some mole creature who agrees to give him a ride, but not before humiliating Obi-Wan some more, as Obi-Wan uses no brain cells of his own and is basically forced to speak on command.
Father, aren't you going to say hello?
Hello.
Speak.
After climbing aboard and driving down the road, they pick up a handful of stormtroopers, who are on the hunt for a little kid and a Jedi, but are not at all suspicious of the little girl and the guy in the Jedi robe sitting right in front of them. After being questioned on why he's here, Obi-Wan's brain malfunctions once again.
That's a long story.
It's a long way.
He brought me here.
Forcing Leia, the 10-year-old girl, to be the responsible and smart one and have to pick up the slack for Obi-Wan's stupidity. Obi-Wan's brain finally fully shuts down after calling Leia her real name.
They know what they're doing, Leia.
Are you fucking kidding me?
He's able to save himself, however, by talking about Padme. The stormtroopers get dropped off and the truck continues on its way, giving us time for a genuine good moment between Obi-Wan and Leia. Obi-Wan tells Leia about her mother while also telling her details about his life that we never knew, like the fact that he may have had a brother. They soon arrive at an Imperial checkpoint where Obi-Wan's forced to get off the truck and show his face to one of the probe droids Reva sent out. Instead of doing the smart thing by just shooting the probe droid, Obi-Wan stupidly decides to look up at it, giving away his location to Reva before shooting it.
Yes, I bet you have.
After taking a couple stormtroopers out with a blaster,
So uncivilized.
Leia is captured by the last one and held by gunpoint, stupidly trying to use her as a human shield as her height doesn't cover the top half of his body, allowing Obi-Wan to easily mow him down. After taking out all the stormtroopers, Obi-Wan tries to shut down the checkpoint lasers. After failing to do so after playing around with the switches, he decides to just shoot it. This entire scene looks stupid and pointless once we cut to a wide shot, as we see they could have walked around the checkpoint the entire time. After doing all that and making it through the checkpoint, they don't even take 2 steps before being ambushed by another group of stormtroopers. They're saved, however, when the Imperial officer turns on the stormtroopers. The Imperial officer reveals herself as Tala, a resistance fighter posing as an Imperial officer. Tala brings them to a Jedi safe room with a set of underground tunnels and writing all over the walls from different Jedi. Here we're given another good scene with Leia, where the first time in this entire show, she genuinely acts and sounds like a kid.
I didn't mean to run away. I used to do it all the time. It was just for fun. I miss home.
The two are about to escape the planet using the underground tunnel system when Obi-Wan is overwhelmed by the Force. As we get to see Vader landed on the planet, mercilessly killing civilians trying to lure out Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's able to draw Vader away from the town as they face each other for the first time since episode 3.
Fuck this.
Obi-Wan comedically runs away as he unceremoniously takes out his lightsaber for the first time in this series. Obi-Wan tries his best to escape Anakin when he teleports out of nowhere,
Surprise, motherfucker.
giving way to the fight we all been waiting for. Even though the fight we get isn't that crazy, it's still pretty cool and a highlight of the show. This fight is ruined a little bit, however, due to the fact that they keep killing the momentum by cutting to boring scenes of Reva hunting for Leia in between the fight. We then single-handedly get the best moment in this entire show, as Vader force chokes Obi-Wan into fire to get revenge for what he did to him on Mustafar. The episode ends with Vader putting out the fire as he attempts to finish off Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is once again saved by Tala, who reignites the fire, separating him and Anakin, and for some reason Vader's not using the Force to put the fire out like he just did 2 seconds ago, needlessly letting him go away as his eyes reflect the fire. The episode closes with Reva somehow teleporting to the end of the tunnel and kidnapping Leia again, even though Leia was walking way before her and she would have saw if Reva passed her. So far, episode 3 is definitely the best episode in the series so far, and this is definitely due to the lack of Reva and a focus on the relationship between Obi-Wan and Vader. Episode 4 picks up right where the last one left off, with Obi-Wan being carried away to safety after his fight with Vader. Being placed in a Bacta tank, Star Wars' new cheat code to not allowing characters to die or remain injured, taking away all consequences from the story. Instead of seeing the emotional toll the aftermath of the fight took on both Obi-Wan and Anakin, we barely get Anakin in this episode, and instead we get another side plot of Obi-Wan having to rescue Leia for the second time. Tala brings Obi-Wan to meet some of our partners in the Resistance. Here we run into Ice Cube's son, who might actually be worse at acting than Moses Ingram. His character refuses to help, just to agree to helping a few minutes later.
It's not my problem.
Well, I wish that were true.
That was easy.
The show attempts to make some emotional connection to this character by giving you some generic sob story about his wife dying to the Empire.
I had a wife once. Oh, boo-hoo! And the Inquisitors found her anyway. Let
me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
We then get a couple more characters as they come up with a plan to rescue Leia, giving way to another problem with this series. The way the show was pitched and the proper way of telling the story would be as a character study. The director of the show, Deborah Chow, said, "I think what I'm most excited about was getting the opportunity to do a character-driven story. In a similar way, it's a different tone, but something like the Joker or Logan. The difference between the Joker and Logan in this show is oversaturated with too many characters, limiting the exploration of Obi-Wan's character as he's pushed to the side and made a secondary character in his own show. Here we're given 4 different side characters that we just met and are supposed to care about, not including also Haja and Princess Leia. They then come up with the stupid plan of the 4 of them storming the Inquisitor base.
There's always a bigger fish.
As Obi-Wan sneaks into the Inquisitor base in the same exact way Cal Kestis did in the Fallen Order video game. Because the events of the Fallen Order video game is canon and takes place a couple years before this series, meaning that both the Inquisitors and the Empire knew about the breach in security, but failed to fix it after all these years. While this is going on, Tala sneaks into the base, once again dressed as an Imperial officer. And for some reason, she still has her Empire credentials, even though she abandoned her post and left her squad dead. Here, we're given a scene solely put in here for female empowerment, but it has the opposite effect of what they're trying to achieve. I don't get what's empowering about talking down to a lower-ranking officer and commanding he address you using male titles.
Then I'm your commanding officer, and you will address me as Sir.
Yes, sir!
But perhaps I should just inform the Grand Inquisitor of your insolence.
No, sir!
Why am I wasting my breath on you?
After getting through the checkpoint and easily taking over someone's outpost, she screams instructions to Obi-Wan over an intercom in a room full of people who can hear exactly what she's saying.
Directly up her ass and to the left.
Bro, what the fuck what did you just say?
We then cut back to Obi-Wan, who discovers a room straight out of Dexter New Blood, given a long hallway of dead frozen Jedi. This scene is really cool, and I really like the idea of the dead Jedi being propped up as trophies, but I think it would have been a lot better if we got a bunch of Jedi we actually recognize. We then get a scene with the 2 most insufferable characters in this show, Reva and Leia, as Reva tries to get information out of Leia that Leia clearly wouldn't know.
We intercepted a transmission on Balnab last year. Bunch of talk of a secret network. And I think you know.
How should I know? I'm retarded.
After failing to intimidate and not getting any information out of Leia,
You did this to yourself. Say something!
Reva reverts to torturing a 10-year-old girl. Before Reva is able to torture Leia, she's called away by Tala. After questioning Tala on her loyalties,
Unless, of course, you're lying.
You calling me a liar?
I ain't calling you a truther.
Reva has a pissy fit and has Tala arrested,
Admit you're a spy.
giving way to easily the dumbest moment in this entire show and the Star Wars franchise as a whole, as Tala is able to escape by slapping the stormtroopers in their helmet. While this is going on, Obi-Wan's able to shut off the lights, allowing him to sneak around the dark and save Leia. While they're escaping, instead of getting a really cool battle between all the Inquisitors since they are in the Inquisitor base, we get a boring scene of Obi-Wan easily mowing down a couple stormtroopers. Here we get to see Obi-Wan use the Force to get a similar scene from the Fallen Order video game, as the glass breaks inside the Inquisitor fortress, flooding the tunnel. We're then given another scene that's a contender for worst scene in this entire franchise, as Obi-Wan attempts to sneak Leia out by hiding her under his trench coat, something straight out of a Saturday morning cartoon.
What's your name, stud?
Vincent. Adult man. Vincent Adult Man.
The trio are caught and forced to fight their way out, getting backup from the 2 side characters from earlier. They're able to board one of the ships and get away, while Wade, a character with a stupid one-liner from before,
So that's it. Fortress Inquisitorius.
gets killed, causing a distraction.
Stop, don't come back.
We are then given Vader for the first time in this episode as he's extremely pissed off and about to kill Reva for letting Obi-Wan get away.
Good, Anakin, good. Kill him. Kill him now.
He not only lets her go, but he ends up praising her after finding out she put a tracker on his ship.
Seems I have underestimated you. But why?
A bunch of Inquisitors and a bunch of Imperial officers can stop 3 people from leaving the planet, causing countless deaths to their own army and reverting them back to phase 1 of tracking down Obi-Wan. The episode ends with them returning and informing Ice Cube's son that Wade died, as they all put on a sad face pretending to give a shit. Finally, Leia's droid glows red to signify that it's overall, this episode was pretty horrible, acting as filler in a show that only has 6 episodes. We get no progression in the relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan, and we're once again spinning our wheels, saving Leia for the 2nd time. Episode 5 begins with a flashback scene that's broken up throughout the episode, as we get to see a young Anakin and a young Obi-Wan training during the Clone Wars. This flashback scene was really cool, but added little in terms of story. Hayden Christensen's de-aging effect also looked horrible, looking like a 6-year-old man instead of a 19-year-old boy.
How do you do, fellow kids?
We then cut to Vader and Reva, as Vader bestows the rank of Grand Inquisitor to her.
Henceforth, you shall be known
as Grand Inquisitor.
We then catch back up with their main crew as they return back to the planet and meet up with Haja. We can see that Obi-Wan is gaining his strength and personality back as he gives a speech inspiring people not to lose hope.
That they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
Before everyone's able to board the escape ship, the now-hacked Lola droid hacks the hangar bay doors, trapping them inside, giving way to a badass moment of Leia agreeing to go up the ventilation shaft.
They've gone up the ventilation shaft.
And fix the problem.
I'm going to need a ladder.
It's not playtime right now.
You trust me? I trust her. Get her the ladder.
Of course, she's able to get the doors open. There's absolutely no way Leia would actually know how to fix the hangar bay doors, and the show is just making shit up for her to do. As they wait for the doors to open, Obi-Wan receives a message from Senator Organa. He decides to stupidly send out a message with vital information that no one should know.
Learned of the children. I'll head to Tatooine. Odin will need help with the boy.
Why the fuck would he say that?
Reva then arrives on the planet with a bunch of stormtroopers, walking up to the base doors and talking to Obi-Wan through it using the Force, where we're given the shocking reveal that Reva was actually one of the younglings in the beginning scene of Order 66.
What a shocker!
After 15 minutes of talking, Reva decides to slice the door open with her lightsaber.
Here's Johnny!
Something which she should have done in the first place. Reva and the stormtroopers then begin entering the base, giving us a comically bad action scene, with the wall of about 50 stormtroopers not being able to hit a handful of barely moving targets. The stormtroopers are able to advance and end up shooting Tala and her robot friend, giving us an overly dramatic scene of her sacrificing herself that acts like she was an important big character we all cared about, even though I was more upset about her droid dying than her.
See, nobody cares.
As Obi-Wan decides to turn himself in, stupidly giving his lightsaber and communicator to Haja, who ends up dropping the communicator and not going back to get it for no reason whatsoever. Obi-Wan is handcuffed and brought before Reva, where she explains her nonsensical plan. She spent the last 20 years of her life hunting down Obi-Wan just so she can kill Anakin, even though she was with Anakin for 20 years and could have struck him down at any moment, which is exactly what she ends up doing anyway. Reva's also mad at Obi-Wan for not helping out at the temple during Order 66, which is really stupid because Obi-Wan was on a completely different planet, ending a war, and was actively being shot at. Obi-Wan is able to escape and get on the ship just as Vader arrives on the planet, giving us a sick scene of Vader stopping the ship from taking off in midair. After pulling it to the ground and ripping it apart, a second ship appears out of absolute nowhere, being the actual ship our characters are on, using the other ship as a decoy.
You didn't see that coming?
Reva then decides to walk up behind Darth Vader and with no plan whatsoever decides to slash him with the lightsaber.
Stop yelling! Yelling hurts my ears!
Giving us a sick scene of Vader effortlessly fending off Reva using nothing but the Force.
Can't touch this.
Vader then steals and snaps her lightsaber, stabbing her in the gut for the second time. Giving us the reveal that Vader knew she was the youngling the entire time, and that the Grand Inquisitor is still alive.
I'm back!
Making zero sense on why Vader would keep her alive and not kill her, especially after the fact she knows who he is. We also get zero explanation on how the Grand Inquisitor is still alive, and how Reva's able to get stabbed twice by a lightsaber and not die. Instead of just finishing her off, the two of them walk away, letting her survive once again.
It's not over, Johnny's dead!
Allowing her to crawl around and find the transmitter that Haja dropped. That's now damaged, but plays the important information Reva needs to know. The episode ends with a young Luke sleeping in his bed as he's presumably now a target of Reva, which makes zero sense to her plan since Vader doesn't even know Luke exists. Overall, this is a really mixed episode with some cool moments setting us up for the finale. Kenobi, Season 1, Episode 6, the final episode in the first season. This episode perfectly reflects the show as a whole, being a mix of some cool moments along with goofy action scenes and storylines we don't care about, making this a very disappointing ending to the first season. The episode begins with the bully from Obi-Wan's job in the first episode continuing to be an asshole.
Why you bully me?
Please, I have a family.
Why you bully me? Everyone asking.
As he steals water from other people and is stopped by Reva, who is somehow still alive and able to walk, while also being able to teleport to Tatooine, who now in this final episode is going on a half-assed redemption arc. The water salesman then finds Owen and warns him about Reva hunting him down. We then cut to the goofy-looking scene of our groups trying to escape his Star Destroyer, as the escape ship is swerving back and forth with the Star Destroyer shooting in a single direction. And for some reason they're not sending out TIE fighters or other smaller ships, which we know they have since Vader uses one later. Once we cut back to our main characters within the ship, you wouldn't even know they were in the middle of a high-speed chase, with everyone around them being extremely calm and the ground barely shaking. Obi-Wan then comes up with a plan to lure Vader away so everyone else can escape, and after volunteering for this brave act, he gets nothing but bombarded and bitched on by everyone around him. After Leia throws a hissy fit and runs away, Obi-Wan attempts to follow her, but is stopped by Haja.
Not cool.
Here, Obi-Wan gives Haja the task of returning Leia back to Alderaan, which I have no idea why he would trust him with doing anything. The guy couldn't even hold on to a communicator. Here we're given a touching scene between Obi-Wan and Leia as they say their goodbyes as Obi-Wan gets ready to face Vader. Obi-Wan then ejects from the escape ship as he tries to lure Vader to the nearest planet. Here Vader is posed with the decision of going after the Resistance fighters or Obi-Wan. The Grand Inquisitor tries to convince Vader to go after the insurgent ship with the rest of our characters, but Vader stupidly decides against it, instead sending the entire Star Destroyer after Obi-Wan, letting the future Resistance get away just to take another ship after Obi-Wan. If he was just planning on facing him alone in the first place, then he should have just took the smaller ship to begin with, and let the Grand Inquisitor follow the other ship using the Star Destroyer. Here the Grand Inquisitor is given a single line and nothing to do. I don't even know why this character was brought back or even put in the show if they did nothing with him the entire time. Vader lands on the planet and we get ready for our second fight. We can see that Obi-Wan's becoming more of his old self.
I will do what I must.
He said it! He said the line!
Go, you know the thing.
Here we're given the first example of Disney Star Wars stealing from themselves, with Vader saying the same thing he said to Obi-Wan to Ahsoka in Rebels.
Then you will die. Then you will die.
We then get a pretty cool fight scene that's yet again interrupted by Reva's bullshit, as Reva arrives at Owen and Beru's house trying to kill Luke. Instead of running away or going to get help, Owen and Beru try to fend off their house, as the two feel like they're in a Home Alone movie, fending off an incompetent house invader.
Down here, you big horse's ass! Come and get me before I call the police!
She's finally able to make it to Luke's room when Luke is escaping through a ladder, giving us the cheapest example of keeping continuity without keeping continuity I've ever seen in my life, as Luke has his head slightly turned while Reva's standing there with a lightsaber. Luke in the original trilogy never seen a lightsaber before, and it would be breaking canon if he did, but they couldn't help themselves and come up with something clever, so they make it so he comes face to face with a lightsaber but doesn't see it because his head was slightly tilted. Luke is able to run into the desert as Reva chases after him, not at all slowed down from being stabbed in the gut. We then finally return back to the Obi-Wan and Vader fight, as the two of them are using the Force looking like earthbenders flinging rocks at each other. Vader is able to get the upper hand when he breaks the floor and buries Obi-Wan under a crater of rocks. Obi-Wan is able to survive though, using the Force to hold up the rocks, only gaining his full power back and being able to escape after thinking about Leia.
It's over 9,000!
After escaping the pit, Obi-Wan stops Vader on his way back to the ship, as we're given another stolen moment out of the same exact scene from before, as Ahsoka's also able to split Vader's mask in the same exact way. This scene is the best thing in the episode, but unfortunately it's something we already seen before in this franchise. We get to see how much wasted potential there was with Ewan McGregor, giving one of the best performances I've ever seen. Obi-Wan realizes Anakin's too far gone and says goodbye, leaving Vader injured in his destroyed suit, screaming Obi-Wan's name through the broken modulator.
Obi-Wan! Obi-Wan! Get back here, Shocker! Shocker!
This episode wraps up Vader's storyline in a quick 20 minutes, so we can use the rest of the runtime to focus on something more important and interesting. Reva. As Reva catches up to Luke, knocking him out with the Force, so yet again she can ignite her lightsaber without him seeing it. Right before she's about to kill him, she stops as she sees herself in him, and how she's
I'm the very thing you swore to destroy.
We then see as Obi-Wan teleports to Tatooine, as Owen and Beru are about 6 feet away from their house, screaming for Luke like he's a lost puppy.
You gotta think, you got a responsibility. You get your ass out there and you find that fucking little boy.
Just as they go to look for him, Reva comes hobbling back with Luke in her arms, giving Luke back to his aunt and uncle, crying about how she wasn't able to kill him. Obi-Wan tells her it's okay and excuses all the shit she's done up until this point, because now all of a sudden she's a good person, because she made the hard decision not to kill a kid. We then cut back to Vader in his castle on Mustafar, as he receives a transmission from a welcome cameo.
I clapped when I saw it.
It's always great to see Palpatine again, and it makes sense for the story, as he uses the events of the series to strengthen his hold on Vader. We then cut to Alderaan as we see Leia getting ready on her own. This scene is supposed to signify the character's growth, even though she's the same annoying little shit she was at the beginning of the show.
If I'm going to do this, I'm going to want to change a few things.
If you're so interested in changing things, how about you change my mind? This show fucking sucks. This series ends with Obi-Wan leaving Luke unguarded once again, as he goes to say goodbye to Leia, showing how close the two have become just for Leia to hardly remember him in episode 4. Obi-Wan returns back to Tatooine. Owen lets Obi-Wan meet Luke for the first time. Obi-Wan walks up to Luke and says the iconic line,
"Hello there."
He said it! He said it!
The final shots give us a last-minute cameo by Qui-Gon Jinn.
I clapped when I saw it!
Because every Marvel and Star Wars property is mandated by Disney to have some form of cameo. This cameo feels rushed and could have been used better, and that's my review on the Kenobi series. Overall, it was very underwhelming, feeling very cheap and campy, only having a handful of cool moments. Obi-Wan and Vader are two of the most important characters to the Star Wars story, and they deserve so much more than another Disney Plus disaster that ruins and sidelines original trilogy characters in favor of new ones. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for my other reviews on TV shows and movies.